Spectacle.
But you don't think it's a problem that this young woman, there's so many examples where, I mean, black people are very marketable.
Well, ask yourself
and
this.
She seems to have been indoctrinated into this. They don't see it as marketable, so it doesn't matter how hard I work.
Well,
I don't think that's accurate or healthy. I mean, when people come into the league and they're like the biggest thing in college, isn't that a big deal?
No, because Asia Wilson was the biggest thing when she came out of South Carolina. That's where I'm from. So she was one of the biggest things when she came out of South Carolina, #1 draft pick. And she didn't get all of that. So what do you attribute that to?
I mean, you're saying that's racism.
No, I'm not saying it's racist. I'm just saying that I think Asia Wilson has a point. And I think sometimes when, black women say certain things, we should listen, especially her, because I'm not in her shoes.
I don't know. But why was Serena Williams such a big star? Because people like that. They didn't not watch her because she was black, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So where are we with this?
I don't know. I'm just sitting back observing the conversation, but I do think...
Well, you're in the conversation. What do you mean?
I'm not a woman.
You're in this conversation.
So before we get into this, I'm going to read the full quote from Asia Wilson, who is a black WNBA player, but not just a black WNBA player. She's the best. Even right now at this moment, she's still the best. She has a championship, all that shit. So she says, I think it's a huge thing. I think a lot of people say it's not about black and white, but to me it is. It really is, because you can be top notch at what you are as a black woman, but yet that's something that people don't want to see. They don't see it as marketable. So it doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter what we do as black women. We're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is. So listen, I don't want to waste no time on the tennis stuff, because tennis is a different sport. Tennis has a different viewership. Tennis players absolutely get paid more than WNBA players, and they are more marketable, even the black ones, because the black ones that are marketable don't come in as just marketable people. Naomi Osaka, I think that's her name, like the Asian black chick that was messing with YB and Namir, or whatever his name is. Yeah, Namir. She didn't come in as like, oh, we just gonna put everything behind her. She had hype, but just like LeBron had hype, if niggas don't live up to the hype, they're not gonna be marketable. Now, we're gonna keep a pin in that before we get to this WNBA stuff. So when you look at the WNBA, who are people that you would have considered faces of the league, throughout time? It's going to be very simple, in my opinion. We not even going 90s on some Cheryl Swoops. Lisa Leslie was the face of the league. So boom, she's black. Let's get that out of there. Diana Taurasi was and still is a face of the league. She's white. Okay, that's cool. Candace Parker and Brittany Griner are like the last generation of WNBA faces. So boom, those people that I mentioned, if you vaguely know about women's basketball, you know who they are. They get marketing endorsements and stuff like that. You might be able to throw a Sue Bird in there or something like that at one point. But listen, those people were the faces of the league. And even if you don't watch female basketball at all, you know them, because guess what? I'm not about to sit here and cap. I don't watch female basketball to this day still. I've watched a few games and stuff like that, but it's not something I sit down and watch. But listen, I know who those people are. You know who those people are. So those were the faces of the league. Why were those people the faces of the league? They were the faces of the league because they were fucking winners and they were dominant. That's it. Over the course of time, they were winners and they were dominant. Asia Wilson came in the league like 2018 or something along those lines, somewhere in that ballpark. She has won a championship. And this is the thing that I cannot answer. Why is she not the face of the league right now? Why is she not one of the faces of the league right now? She might be, but when I named those other people, I knew them without watching. Let me say it again. I wasn't watching WNBA, and I was aware of who all those people were. Asia Wilson is by far the best player in the league. It is a mystery why, she's not the face. And this is the thing. Being that I don't watch it, I don't know how long it took those people like Candace Parker and Lisa Leslie to become the faces of the league. I don't know how long it took. But the thing I know, if not all of them, most of them are champions. Most of them are champions. I know that. And Asia Wilson is a champion as well. So I'm a little baffled or confused on that. But let's talk about Caitlyn Clark. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. So when we talk about Caitlyn Clark, there are a few things as far as the difference between her and Asia Wilson. And when we get to this marketability talk that she's talking about as far as black and white and stuff like that. So the first thing is when Asia got out of college, there was no NIL nothing. There was no NIL nothing. NIL started in 2021. And when it comes down to it, I'm going to put on the screen. These are all Caitlyn's NIL deals, or just some of them. H&R Block is ridiculous. Bose is ridiculous. State Farm, understandable. Buick, crazy. But Gatorade and Nike, she was, pretty much sponsored by Gatorade and Nike through NIL deals. So with that being a thing, what was going on? I seen commercials for Caitlyn Clark. Commercials, actual commercials. Can I be honest with you for a second? I don't recall seeing commercials centered around any male college athletes to this day. Now, that doesn't mean that they weren't done. I'm saying I don't recall them. So let's get down to what made Caitlyn Clark marketable. It comes down to two things that really created the hype around her. Are you ready? Are you ready? Lock yourselves in. The scoring record. The scoring record. She was on track to beat the scoring record the next season. She was on track to beat the scoring record the next season. And I say the next season for a reason. We'll get to that in a moment. Asia didn't break the scoring record. And also, as far as, the NCAA and stuff like that, Division I women's. But also, there were no NIL deals. So you could couple those two, because I already mentioned NIL. So that, I guess that's 1 and 2. We'll just get that out of there. But the second thing that built the hype, and this is very, very important. Angel Reese, LSU versus Iowa and Caitlyn Clark. When they had that finals, I'm not about to sit here and lie and say there was a big buildup to it and stuff like that. I can't recall there being a big buildup, but I'll tell you what. I will tell you what. If Angel Reese had have remained humble and had humility and all that stuff and didn't taunt the losing team, I do not think the hype would be where it is right now. Because at the end of the day, this is another thing. We talk about this, black and white, this race and all this stuff. Like, Angel Reese is more of a face of the WNBA and has more fame than Asia Wilson. Why? Because she's looked at as a rival for Caitlyn Clark. And that is where this comes from. It comes from the rivalry, and it comes from Angel Reese talking shit and taunting the opponents after they won the championship. That's what it comes from. And listen, I'm going to be honest. When we look at that situation, when you have somebody who has bad sportsmanship and shit like that, it's going to be highlighted. But when you look at a black person and a white person, and the black person is not only winning, but they're taunting, yes. Let's cut the BS. Let's cut the bullshit. There is a racial component in the coverage, in the outrage around what Angel Reese was doing. Now, you got to understand, I'm not putting that solely on the shoulders of race, because if you look at Dylan Brooks is an NBA player, and he was doing the most, and he was talking all this trash to LeBron and stuff like that. And people look at him a certain way. He became a villain. So it's not all about race, but you would be naive or just disingenuous to act like race doesn't play a part in it as far as the coverage to some degree. Now, when you look at how big that got, as far as, okay, she's talking shit and da-da-da-da-da, and they wanted to cover the, I ain't hear about no Caitlyn Clark or nothing like that before that game. But when I look at that game, the thing that stood out to me is like, oh, wait a minute. Like, Caitlyn was really carrying these chicks, and she was getting buckets. She was the sole bucket getter on her team, as where LSU was kind of diverse in their talent. The buckets were spread out. Like, it was like 3-4 people with 20 points. So it's like, as where Caitlyn, she balled out. So it's like, okay, this is got to be entertaining. Let me tap into this next year. And that's what happened. After the media covered that rivalry that really wouldn't be sparked with, and you got to give credit. You want to talk about marketing, like, fuck the villainizing and the, like, Angel, like, I don't care how good of a hooper Caitlyn Clark is. She's got to tip her hat to Angel Reese for talking that shit, and getting shit going. And even then, if memory serves me correct, Caitlyn Clark was talking shit. She was talking shit in college. But she didn't do it that last year. She was trying to chill that last year. Now, again, I wasn't watching women's basketball at that time, but that's some of the things that I heard. So when we get past that, okay, this woman that has brought so much attention, along with Angel Reese, to women's basketball, and also, unlike Angel Reese, she is a generational talent. This is not me just saying that because, she averaged. No. She broke the scoring record. And even in the WNBA now, she's balling out something stupid as a rookie and started off horrible, but is balling out as a rookie. But yes, the talent is there. So we got the talent. We got the hype. And even if you want to say, like, we got that racial dynamic of Angel Reese, because let's be honest for a second. You want to talk about race and marketability? Look at Sha'Carri Richardson. Sha'Carri Richardson was talking that shit around the same time. Niggas loved it. White people hated it. Not all of them, but some of them hated it. And she became a bigger face, probably the biggest face in women's track and field. And this is me being honest. Not the fastest, not the greatest, but the biggest face of women's track and field probably since Marion Jones. When it comes down to people like Shelly Ann Frazier and dog, I'm a track athlete. So I know these people. Like, I know these people. I used to run track. I'm in the track. So, like, this is not somebody that's just saying shit. Like, I actually am into this shit, even women's track. And most people don't know about track. But Sha'Carri, I mean, you could even argue, Marion Jones was big, but, like, I'm not going back as far as Flojo and stuff like that. But Allison Felix and the other girl that I named, the Jamaican, Shelly Ann Frazier, yeah, they were winners. They were absolutely winners. But when we talk about marketability, nobody knows them as much as people know Sha'Carri Richardson. So when we look at that, that's where the marketing comes in, and that's where the marketability comes in. And even though, she learned sportsmanship and humility and put the drugs down, and she did great as far as Sha'Carri Richardson, she wouldn't be as marketable as she is right now had she never talked shit. If she had just came in and just been regular and been humble the whole time, she wouldn't be the star that she is today. Same thing, and even let's just take it out of women and just black people. Let's go to, Noah Lyles. Noah Lyles talks shit about the NBA. That is why we care about Noah Lyles right now. Y'all don't know who Tyson Gay is, and y'all don't care. When you stir the pot, that boosts the marketing. When you create a narrative or become a part of a narrative that is a spicy narrative, that's when you have the marketing. As far as athletes, if you are just like a LeBron champion and you just don't have nothing going on, like to where no scandals, you don't talk shit, nothing, like the NBA is the NBA. It's tremendous. When it comes to women's basketball, you have to understand as well that they don't get a profit. They have been in the red every year. They don't get a profit. The NBA is keeping that league open with their money. That's what it is. So when we look at this, all of that stuff boils down to marketability. I can understand Asia Wilson's frustration, and I could understand why she would think that it's because she's white, because her being white does play into it. It definitely plays into it, but I don't think that it plays into it from a standpoint of we're the WNBA, let's push this white woman. I think it plays into it like, well, this black woman, Angel Reese, is talking shit to this poor little docile white woman, and we gotta stand up for our white queens. And like, I think that's where it started as far as the racial white woman stuff. And if it carries over that way, then it is what it is. But I don't think it's just like, oh, she's white, so she's more marketable. No, it's the hype that made her marketable. The fact that she's a generational talent and that she had that rivalry, which has undertones of race. So when we look at the WNBA, all the faces, again, for the most part, have been black with very few white, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird type figures. And no matter who we're talking about, none of them made the masses want to watch the WNBA and go to games. And why do people want to go to games and all of that stuff? Because of the whole rivalry, because she is a generational talent. And guess what happens? I remember, and this is organic, last year, there were more, because it was, I can't name the chicks right now. I'm not even going to pump fake you, but there are more chicks who are coming out of college next year, who they're going to be in college, and they are scorers and stuff like that, and they really ball, and they got better games as far as more entertaining games than Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese. And that, you know, is going to make people want to watch to a certain extent. It's built up awareness and stuff like that. And even when you look at the WNBA, now we know Asia Wilson is she's a fucking baller. And she is the coldest. And when you start looking at WNBA stats and seeing what the other all-stars average, and then you see how she like head and shoulders above all these people, it's like, oh, she's the truth. So listen, I don't see this working out bad for Asia Wilson or anybody else in the WNBA in the future. But, you know, if they keep having this animosity and keep trying to beat this chick up and stuff like that, you know, like if her career get ended by injury, it's over. It's over. But with that being said, that's my take. Let me know your thoughts. I'm gone.